Hey everybody, it's Pete Toll, aka PT Sports 84. Back again with another official 2K ratings update. Um, just kind of want to go over some of the changes in the actual update today. There were quite a few. I did a post on Operation, or started a thread on Operation Sports, highlighting the changes of what I found. So, first, I want to dive into player transactions. Here you can see Javante Smart was added from the Sioux Falls Sky Force and from the G League and to the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Milwaukee Bucks waived Justin Robinson to the free agent pool. The other kind of notable thing with outside of ratings was Enos Cantor was updated with his last name now being Freedom. It's Enos Cantor Freedom. 2K went with Enos Freedom. That's good enough. I mean, the change was in there. It's pretty good that they at least were on top of that. One note that is a little bit bothering me is we're going on over a week, and Luke Walton is still in NBA 2K22 as the head coach of the Sacramento Kings, when in reality we know that Alvin Gentry took over the position. Now, easily you could just fire Luke Walton in here and then install Alvin Gentry as the coach, then go over to the G League and pick one of the generic bald-headed coaches, such as Kelly Howard here for the Rio Grande Valley, fire him, and then hire like one of the assistants from the free agent pool list, then go over and hire him to the Sacramento Kings, then edit his face and his name to one of the assistants. You could either go Mike Longabardi or Stacey Augman, depending on whatever your preference is there, and do it manually. But I was hoping that 2K would eventually have updated Walton, especially being that oftentimes with position changes or coach changes, such as those, they do them in the ratings updates, but they failed to do that with this. So much needed that they need to change Luke Walton. But now diving into the player ratings. Or actually, let's go to the position updates real quick. We'll just breeze through those. Isaiah Joe was moved back to shooting guard as his primary position for the Sixers. We have Kobe White moved to shooting guard as his primary position for the Chicago Bulls. They did not update Ayu Dosunmu to small forward, which I would have liked to have seen that, considering that he is a small forward on the team. Cleveland Cavaliers updated Ed Davis. They removed the small power forward as a secondary position. They updated Kevin Love to center as primary position. And then Lamar Stevens got updated to power forward as he's been the backup there. The Clippers, Amir Coffey got switched to power forward, small forward, as he's been filling in for Nick Batum and basically playing ahead of Justice Winslow. Miami Heat, they had one change. Caleb Martin got updated as small forward, power forward. He's often played small ball, power forward, small forward, along with Max Strus. The Jazz were updated with Royce O'Neal moving to power forward, and then Bojan Bogdanovic moved to small forward. That's long overdue there. They updated Alec Burks to be the starting point guard. His primary position changed to point guard. Orlando Magic, they've updated Wendell Carter Jr. to power forward since he's been the starter all season there. And then they updated Mo Wagner to be the backup center, kind of switching off minutes there with Robin Lopez. So that's those. The Denver Nuggets, they did not move KD. Surprisingly, they didn't update. Again, they did not update Kyrie Irving to shooting guard. They also did not switch KD and Bruce Brown. Their positions should flip-flop, but they didn't change them. Aaron Gordon moved to small forward now with Michael Porter Jr. out for the year. They also updated the Indiana Pacers with Karis LeVert being the shooting guard. And then you have um, Jeremy Lamb playing the backup small forward. Actually, recently they've moved Chris Duarte to small forward and then shifted back Jeremy Lamb to shooting guard. So I get what 2K wanted to do there because that's what the lineup change was for a little while, but it should be Chris Duarte as a small forward and then Lamb switching to shooting guard because the backup's been Kalan Martin and starter when healthy was Justin Holiday. Now they could leave it alone because Holiday could essentially come back and start over Duarte, who could shift to a bench role, and then that would be correct. Either or, just throwing that out there. The New Orleans Pelicans, they updated Herb Jones to power forward. They also updated Josh Hart and Garrett Temple. Josh Hart moving to shooting guard as he's been the starter there. The new revamped lineup with Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the bench. Garrett Temple has been playing small forward. He fills in at shooting guard as well. The Detroit Pistons, they updated Hamidou Diallo back to small forward as that's where he's been primarily playing this year. The Houston Rockets, they updated Jayshawn Tate to be the starting power forward alongside Christian Wood at center. And then they also updated Usman Garuba to center as he's played backup center minutes, and Daniel House was back at small forward as he's been filling in as the backup there. The Spurs, they moved Caleb Bates-Drop to small forward as he started a game there. And then Doug McDermott and Keldon Johnson flip-flopped positions as Keldon Johnson's been the power forward with McDermott as a small forward. I think eventually what they're going to do is Devin Vassell will start next to Keldon Johnson eventually, but we'll see what happens there. And last but not least, for position changes, the Golden State Warriors, they updated Andre Iguodala to small forward as his primary position. So those are the position changes. So now let's dive into the ratings changes. First for the 76ers, Tobias Harris goes down 1 to an 86 overall. Tyrese Maxey jumps up to an 81 overall. Matisse Thybulle jumps 2 to a 78 overall. Danny Green goes +1 to a 78 overall. Furkan Korkmaz has cooled off, so he dropped down 2 to a 76 overall. One constructive thing here, I would have liked to have seen Georges Niang go up maybe a point overall, and then also Seth Curry go up a point overall. I think, with Maxey kind of cooling off the last couple games shooting-wise, I think Curry should have been an 80, and then they could have left Maxey as an 80, but that's just my opinion. Milwaukee Bucks, you've got Chris Middleton dropping 2 to an 85 overall. Bobby Portis Jr. goes +1 to an 81. Pat Connaughton goes +2 to a 79. George Hill goes -1 to a 73. And then Rodney Hood drops down 1 to a 71 overall. No real criticism here. I would have liked to have seen Kalaitzakis' position updated to small forward. But otherwise, I'm not going to complain too much. I think Giannis could have went up to a 97 overall, but that's just me. Chicago Bulls, DeMar DeRozan goes down 1 to an 88 overall. Lonzo Ball goes up 1 to an 83. Alex Caruso goes +1 to an 80. Kobe White goes down 2 to a 76. And then Javonte Green goes -1 to a 75 overall. Could have seen Sunmu go up maybe a point or so, but no real nitpick. I thought DeRozan should have probably stayed at an 89 overall, but, it's neither here or there. The Cleveland Cavaliers, Jared Allen goes +1 to an 85. Darius Garland goes +1 to an 84. Lauri Markkanen goes +2 to an 80. I don't know that I agree with that. I would have left him at, a 78 or even a +1 to a 79. I wouldn't have jumped him +2 in that category. I think Cedi Osman should have went up 1 point. Isaac Okoro should have went up a point or two as well. Dylan Windler dropped 3 points to a 72 overall. And that's the changes for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown drops 2 to an 86. Enes Freedom goes +2 to a 78 overall. Marcus Smart goes +1 to a 77. Grant Williams +1 to a 77. Josh Richardson +2 to a 76. And then Juan Hernan Gomez drops 2 to a 72. And then also Peyton Pritchard drops 1 overall to a 72. The LA Clippers, this team really needs a hard look at their ratings. I can't believe that Reggie Jackson didn't get touched. I don't know how Terrence Mann goes down. I don't know how Luke Kennard didn't go up 1. Just those kind of changes. I don't see how Paul George didn't go up in overall. Beats me. But Isaiah Hartenstein goes up +1 to a 77. Eric Bledsoe -1 to a 76. Terrence Mann -1 to a 76. And then Serge Ibaka goes -1 to a 75. The Memphis Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. goes up +2 to an 82. Desmond Bane goes +3 to a 80. Dylan Brooks goes +2 to an 80. Kyle Anderson goes -1 to a 78. Tyus Jones goes +1 to a 77. Brandon Clark goes +1 to a 77. The Atlanta Hawks, much needed. Trae Young goes to a 90. Clint Capella goes back up to an 84 overall, so he's +1. Cam Reddish goes +1 to a 78. Kevin Huerter only goes +1 to a 75. I think he should have went back up to a 76 or higher. Lou Williams goes -1 to a 75. The Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo goes -1 to a 86. Gabe Vincent's one of the biggest movers in this roster update overall. He goes +5 to a 75. Caleb Martin goes +2 to a 75. And then Dwayne Dedmon goes +1 to a 76. The Charlotte Hornets, Miles Bridges goes -1 to a 82. Terry Rozier goes back up as he's been playing well lately, +2 to an 81. And Kelly Oubre goes +1 to a 79. The Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell goes -1 to an 88. Bojan Bogdanovic goes +1 to an 81. Jordan Clarkson goes +2 to a 79. The Sacramento Kings, Harrison Barnes goes -1, and then Tristan Thompson goes +1. I don't know how they haven't touched Marvin Bagley at all. They didn't increase Alex Len. They didn't touch Terrence Davis or Mo Harkless. You could have made a case that Chimezie Metu could have went up 1. Rashawn Holmes is underrated. I think Tyrese Halliburton could have went down 1. Just my opinion there. The New York Knicks, Julius Randle went down 2 to an 84. RJ Barrett went down 1 to an 82. Emmanuel Quickley goes +1 to a 79. Kemba Walker drops -1 to a 79. Alec Burks goes +1 to a 78 overall. He should have definitely been an 80 overall, the way he's been playing lately. Evan Fournier goes -1 to a 77, and Nerlens Noel goes -1 to a 77. Taj Gibson's criminally underrated here. I don't know how you still have Wayne Selden as a 72 over some of these guys that play when Wayne Selden does not. I look at the LA Lakers. This is one of the poorly managed teams, in my opinion. Nobody gets touched here, including Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, who are both criminally overrated. But yet they don't touch Avery Bradley, who's criminally underrated. They do change Talen Horton-Tucker -1, Malik Monk -1 to a 74. Wayne Ellington goes -1 to a 72. They also did not touch Austin Reeves at all. Thought he can go up maybe a point. The Orlando Magic, only 2 changes. Franz Wagner doesn't go up, but yet RJ Hampton goes up +2 to a 75. I mean, okay, that's granted, that's good. But how do you not touch Franz Wagner, who's played well? He should at least be a 78 overall. Gary Harris goes +1 to a 74 overall. No one else is touched on the roster. The Dallas Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis goes +2 to an 85. Tim Hardaway Jr. drops another point to a 77 overall. They finally touch Moses Brown and drop him 3 overall, but they did not increase Reggie Bullock, Frank Ntilikina, and they did not increase Willie Cauley-Stein or decrease Trey Burke. So a little bit work to do on them. The Brooklyn Nets, like I said, they didn't change Durant's position back to power forward or change Kyrie Irving to shooting guard. I thought that they could have went down on Blake Griffin a little bit more and then increased James Johnson. But all they touched was Kevin Durant going -1 to a 96 and Patty Mills going +1 to a 78. Going over to the Denver Nuggets, Aaron Gordon goes +1 to an 80 overall. Facu Campazzo goes to a 75 overall +1. Bones Highland goes +1 to a 75 overall. And Jeff Green goes +1 to a 74 overall. Still do not have the torn ACL injury for PJ Dozier added. You know, it's only been 5 days since the injury was announced. You know, I don't know what to tell you there. Indiana Pacers, Karis LeVert goes -2 to an 80 overall. Chris Duarte goes -1 to a 77. Jeremy Lamb goes +1 to a 77. Torrey Craig goes +1 to a 77. Kalon Martin goes +2 to a 74. Justin Holiday goes only +1 to a 73. I thought he should be a 74, 75. Goga Batazde goes -1 to a 72. The New Orleans Pelicans, Brandon Ingram finally drops, down 1 point to an 83 overall. Devontae Graham goes -1 to a 79. Nickeil Alexander-Walker drops 1 to a 76. They did not touch Jackson Hayes, who has been playing, underwhelming this season so far. I would have liked to seen him drop to a 75 on par with Willie Hernan-Gomez. They did increase Herb Jones +1 to a 73. Garrett Temple goes down 1 to a 72 overall. The Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham goes down 2 to a 78. Sadiq Bey matches him down 2 to a 78. Well overdue as Bey has struggled in this last cycle. Isaiah Stewart goes -1 to a 77. Josh Jackson goes -1 to a 74. Hamidou Diallo goes +2 to a 74. I would have liked to have seen Killian Hayes, especially on the defensive side of the ball, go way up here to get in line with at least Corey Joseph at a 74. So that way he is not the starter playing or basically rated as a low-tier backup. At least get him up to par there. The Toronto Raptors, Pascal Siakam goes +1 to an 84. I don't like that. I think Van Fleet's still the best player on the team. I think if you're going to put Siakam to an 84, then Van Fleet should have went up as well. Gary Trent Jr. goes +1 to an 81. And then Kem Birch goes +1 to a 77. I like that. I thought Boucher should have went down 1 to a 76. And then you could have looked at the increased play of Malachi Flynn, maybe put him +1 as well. The Houston Rockets, Christian Wood goes back up +1 to an 83. Jalen Green finally gets a drop. He goes down 1 to a 78 overall. Eric Gordon drops 1 to a 77 overall. And then you've got Jayshawn Tate there with the position change. He's still at a 78. Kevin Porter Jr. goes +1 to a 76. Daniel Tice goes -1 to a 74. And Garrison Matthews, who's been starting lately, goes +1 to a 74. I thought Kevin Porter Jr. could have went back up to a 77. That would have been good to see that there. And then I think that DJ Augustine's been underrated this season. I think he could have went up a little bit more as well. San Antonio Spurs, only one change on this roster. How does Jakob Poeltl not go up to an 81 overall? How do you not have Keldon Johnson at an 81 overall? Thad Young should be at least an 80. You can make an argument Devin Vassell should have went up. Doug McDermott could have stayed at a 76 at least. But Lonnie Walker is the only change on the roster. He goes -2 to a 74 overall. Don't quite understand that one, how those other guys didn't go up, in rating. The Phoenix Suns, how Chris Paul doesn't go up if Devin Booker goes up, I have no idea. Devin Booker goes +1 to a 90 overall. They did get Landry Shamet updated +2 to a 75 overall. But I would have liked to have seen Crowder, Payne, and Cameron Johnson increase by 1 overall each as well. But maybe in the next update we'll see that. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Lou Dort goes +1 to a 79 overall. Long overdue, Jeremiah Robinson Earl goes +2 to a 75 overall. And Ty Jerome goes +2 to a 74 overall. Terrence Mann's been playing well. I would have liked to seen him go up and Teo Maledon go down. Darius Baisley, I don't know how the hell he's only a 72. You've got to put him back at a 75. If you're going to keep Pokashevsky and he's been struggling all year to 75, Baisley at least matches that for the season. The Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards goes +1 to an 85 overall. D'Angelo Russell goes +2 to an 82 overall, and Jared Vanderbilt goes +1 to a 77 overall. I would have liked to have seen Naz Reid maybe go to a 77, Vanderbilt to a 78, and McDaniels to a 76. But that's just kind of nitpicking. McLaughlin could have went up to a 73 to at least be on par with Prince there. Portland Trailblazers, I thought Dame could have went down 1 to 89 overall. And that's being generous. The one change they did make for the roster, Yusuf Nurkic goes +1 to an 83. I thought C.J. McCollum could have went to an 86 overall, but he didn't change. Covington didn't change as well. I thought he should at least be in line with Nasir Little, if not, because he is a starter. Him and Larry Nance and Nasir Little should have all been in the same range. You could have knocked down Tony Snell, in my opinion. Going to the Golden State Warriors, the biggest gripe I have overall with this roster update is Gary Payton Jr. again is untouched. He's still a 72 overall. He should at least be a 75 overall, especially with his defensive prowess. He's been able to hit the three, low volume, but still able to shoot it. They continue to have Jonathan Kuminga at a 75, but then have Gary Payton Jr. at a 72. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They did increase Kevon Looney +1 to a 77. Jordan Poole goes +1 to a 79. Andrew Wiggins goes +1 to an 82. Draymond Green, the biggest mover on the team, goes +3 to an 83. So I agree with those, but you've got to bring up Gary Payton II. Criminally underrated for the Golden State Warriors. Washington Wizards, we've got Spencer Dinwiddie going -1 to an 82 overall. Kyle Kuzma drops 1 to a 79. Daniel Gafford goes +1 to a 79. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope goes +1 to a 76. Denny Advia goes +1 to a 76. and Raul Neto goes -1 to a 74. Not sure how they don't have Aaron Holiday at a 74 as well. They should have dropped Anthony Gill, who doesn't play, and especially dropped Davis Bertans, who's been struggling since last season. At least drop him below Kispert, or on par with Kispert, rather, to a 74, if you're going to make changes there. That's the changes that were in this update. Let me know who you agree with, who you think should change overall. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. And I'll have more content coming out, later this week, early next week, just dissecting some various things roster related for NBA 2K22. Thanks everybody for watching. Talk to you next time.